Hi, this is Ron Martinson of ronmartinblog.com, and I have a very popular tutorial that I did a long time ago. It's also featured on the Imagenomic website using Portraiture 2.3, and one of the complaints that I got was this model skin is so good that it's really hard to see, that there's any difference. And so I'm going to go ahead and redo this video here, and I'm going to take some of the feedback that you've given me, including some people saying that, can you just speed it up and get on with it? So I'm going to do a quick high-level overview, and we're going to go from there. So let's do Filter, Imagenomic, Portraiture. I'm going to show a couple options that I set, is that I like to have my output go to a new layer rather than the default, which is the current layer. And I like to create a transparency mask, which is not required, but I like to have that. So I check these two on from the defaults. Generally, I'll use the default or smoothing normal in my normal workflow. In the advanced section, after I do this quick high-level overview, I'll show you what all these sliders do so that you can get more accurate results. For the preview, I like to make sure I use the fast preview. Accurate doesn't help a whole lot, and generally just makes you wait a lot longer. So with that said, if I wanted it quick and dirty and I wanted to create a mask, I'll come here, I'll click a spot on the skin. This is the starting point for the mask that you see over here, and this plus now shows up, and I can refine the mask, make it better, include some of this white skin, and boom. So you noticed I tried to pick a spot where it didn't include all the hair, because I'm really wanting to just focus on the skin. The more I get, the more I have to mask out if I don't want it to apply, because whatever you see here, it's going to apply softening to it, so I don't want softening on hair. So now that I have my settings, I could turn on enhancements if I wanted to do something like using the mask, adjust the skin tone, and I'm going to amp this up really big so you can see what it does. And I've made it warm just where the mask has been applied. So you see it's kind of misty spots that are holes in the mask here. And if I don't want to use any of these, which I don't like to use, I'll turn that off. And then I'm going to hit OK. Now, you can look, let's go to 100% so you can see the before and after. And here's the mask. You can see what's been applied, what's been ignored, any of the places that bleed through. There's no skin softening happening. And then I can see before and after. If I felt this was too much, I could just come along and lower the opacity to what I want. Generally, I'll either go between 65 and 75 for many of my usages, because I like to have a little bit of just the natural skin tone and things like freckles and stuff come through. But if you want to kill all that, crank it up as much as you want. There's also higher presets. So again, you can get a discount off my blog. For those that want to continue watching, I'm going to go into a lot more details that show you everything to know about this product. I'm going to talk about a lot more features in this product. So you'll notice up here there's this thumbnails option, and what that's trying to do is show you these applied to a thumbnail, and you can make the thumbnail larger, but honestly, even at its largest size, there's a lot of artifacts and you just can't really tell. So I'm not a big fan of that particular feature, so I just always turn it off. The next thing, let's see, is make sure this is small too, in case there's anything happening behind the scenes. Next thing, there are these other settings. Some people like them. I mean, if I apply Glamour, you can see what it does. I'm just not a fan of the look though. And I'm really just here for skin softening when I come use this product. If I want really heavy skin softening, kind of that plastic-y look, notice what it's doing is it's using a larger threshold and it's cranking up these values higher. Oops, we still have that Glamour enhancement on there, so let's turn that off. Use that much skin softening if I come in here and look at it at 100%. Let's face. Drag to get in here. Wait for it to render. That's quite a bit of skin softening. If I click on the image, I can see the before. Let go, I see the after. That's way more than I like. So again, often I'll either come down here to normal, which you see has a smaller threshold and less detail smoothing, or default, which is my personal favorite because, as you may have noticed, it leaves a little bit more details in here. Now there's a cool functionality here where if you want to see what the two do side by side, you can say add preview. So now I want to compare normal to default. Let's see, when I click on this, these values go to default. Click on this, it re-renders, and the values go to normal. And that allows me to easily tell which one I want. The active tab is the one that will be applied if you hit OK. Everything else gets ignored. You can right click and close other tabs. But if you wanted to try every possible preset, you could. So let's close that other preview. Let's use another cool feature called bracketing. Now bracketing has all these values over here. It allows you to come in and set whichever one you want. So threshold is a really cool one to take a look at. So let's do, actually before we do that, let's set threshold to 0. And so we're going to do threshold with 7 previews and 10 steps of bracketing. So we're going to do 0 all the way up to 40. And because it did using 10 steps, then it gets to 40, which is the maximum. It just duplicates. So these two really aren't even needed. And so if I wanted to compare 0 threshold with the default values and 40 threshold, you can see threshold has a big impact on how much is going to be applied. This is just like sharpening. There's a threshold. A great way to learn each of the detail smoothing features is to do them one at a time like this. So let's say that I was happy with one of these and say, for example, 30 was my favorite. I can say close other previews, and then I can repeat that process again. So now I'm going to do bracketing, and this time I'm going to do, using this as my starting point, I'm going to say, let's look at the fine details. Let's do 7 previews, and let's bracket in steps of 6, whatever you want. And so you notice it went forwards and backwards. So I can see fine minus 18, what that did. You got to look real carefully because these details are super subtle. And fine plus 18. And you'll notice these little details in here are filled in a lot more. And so this is a great way to determine, what's the exact amount. Now, honestly, this is kind of cumbersome. It's not really how I work. It's more useful for learning how these work. Or if you really do a lot of skin stuff and you really do want to tweak it, then you can. But once you find something you like, you generally either use that preset or you can save and create your own preset. You can also undo anywhere along the way. And as I mentioned, you come in here, find the one that you like, and then when you hit OK, that's what's going to get applied. And we can still come in here, create our mask anytime along the way. You notice it changes to plus. Sadly, there's no minus. And we can get as much as the face that we want. Now notice it got a little bit of hair. That's okay. When I hit OK, we can see where it was applied, the overall result, and the before and the after. To clean up that mask, what I like to do is I like to just show that layer. I like to create a mask. I'll use a black brush, and I'll go get rid of what I don't want skin softening on. And I never want skin softening on my model's hair. So using a big brush, I can just go quickly turn that all off. And it doesn't have to be super precise. Sometimes the eyebrows get a little bit more than I'd like. Sometimes it's desirable. But this is personal preference. I like to just go nuke it off the eyebrow, but you got to be careful. I'll go look at it and see before and after and say, ooh, maybe that was too much. You can look at it in real time and see what it looks like before and after. And you can Control Z to see, is it the way you want it? So you always get a good idea of the final result when you look at 100%. See before and after. I usually do an apply layer mask to just make this the minimum thing that needs to be. That also saves a little file size, especially if you're working really big files. And again, if we felt like that was just a little too plasticky for our taste, you can dial it down to whatever suits your fancy. Or blog.com. Again, visit my blog, see a lot of reviews for other products and lots of product discounts on the right hand side of the blog. And up here, use my discount codes to save some money. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.